Good evening, and welcome to the virtual public information meeting for State Project 109-173, Farmington Canal Heritage Trail, Phase 1, from Town Line Road to Norton Park. This presentation is to be recorded and posted to YouTube after tonight's live event. Closed captioning, including non-English translation options, will be available at that time. Available for those viewing the presentation via Microsoft Teams is the option to view the captions or subtitles. To turn on this feature, select the CC button at the bottom right corner of your screen. This turns on the captioning. Then choose the language by selecting the settings wheel next to the CC button. Select Captions/Subtitles and select the desired language. Available languages tonight are English, Spanish, and Polish. During this meeting, we will meet the project team, review the virtual meeting format, review our civil rights disclosure, and present the proposed project. Topics to be covered consist of project location, purpose and need, design status, project overview, historical designations, construction cost and schedule, and right-of-way impacts, including the state right-of-way process. After the presentation, we will hold a live question and answer session. Now I'd like to introduce the project team. Starting from bottom right, we have the prime designer for the project, Mr. Ahmed Kadim. Bottom left, myself, Mr. William Hogan, project engineer. Top right, our project right-of-way coordinator, Mr. Matt Giannakopoulos. Top center, project manager, Mr. Scott Bushy. And finally, top left, Mr. Matthew Vale, principal engineer of highway design. Please see the links below for our civil rights flyer and completion of the demographic survey. Completion of the survey is appreciated. Please note, no person shall, on the basis of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation or subject to discrimination in the development of this project. As mentioned before, there will be a question and answer session following the project presentation. There will be 3 ways to provide questions and comments to the project team. The first is through the project email, which is dotproject109-173@ct.gov. The second option is to call 860-944-1111 and leave a voicemail. The final option is to post questions and comments through the virtual meeting chat box. Please note to reference the project number when leaving a voicemail, and that the comment period for emails and voicemails will be open through July 7th. The chat box for posting questions and comments will be available during tonight's presentation only. Prior to the Q&A session, I will provide additional instruction on how to use the chat box. For additional information related to tonight's meeting, please visit the project webpage at portal.ct.gov/DOT Plainville 109-173. At this time, I'd like to hand the floor off to the town manager, Mr. Robert Lee, who wishes to say a few words about the project, after which the project review will begin.
Good evening. I am Robert Lee, Town Manager of Plainville, and I am very pleased to welcome everyone to this evening's virtual public information meeting concerning Phase 1 of the Farmington Canal Heritage Trail. This day has been a long time coming, as it was over 2 years ago that the gap closure study was completed. Since that time, the State Department of Transportation, led by Project Manager Scott Bushy, has worked closely with town staff to develop the plans that you will be seeing this evening. One of the goals established by the Planning and Zoning Commission in the Town Plan of Conservation and Development is to promote pedestrian and bicycle options. They have deemed the completion of the Farmington Canal Heritage Trail in Plainville a high priority that will be a significant asset to the community. Preliminary Phase 1 plans have been reviewed by the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board and the Plainville Historical Society leadership. The Plainville Economic Development Agency and the Plainville Chamber of Commerce fully support the development of the trail. The construction of the trail will be paid for with state grants as completion of the Farmington Canal Heritage Trail from New Haven to the Massachusetts border has been deemed a high priority for Connecticut. The town of Plainville is thankful to Scott Bushy and his team for putting together the program for this evening and their efforts towards closing the gap. On that note, I'll turn it over to the Department of Transportation to begin their presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Good evening, everyone. My name is Ahmed Kadim, and I'm the project designer, and I'll continue the rest of the presentation. So the project is located in the town of Plainville. Shown here in yellow is the proposed alignment for the trail through the town of Plainville. The trail will pick up from the Southington Trail at Town Line Road at the southwest corner of the town, and will continue to go all the way to Northwest Drive at the northern border of the town. To the south of Plainville, the trail will connect to the Southington section, which has an anticipated construction date of 2022. To the north of Plainville, the trail will connect to the Farmington section of the trail, which was completed 2017. For tonight's presentation, we will be focusing on Phase 1, shown here, which is from Town Line Road to Norton Park. The purpose of this project is to construct a multi-use trail known as the Farmington Canal Heritage Trail through the town of Plainville to close the final remaining gap in the Connecticut section of the trail. Through the state of Connecticut, the Farmington Canal Heritage Trail stretches from New Haven to Suffield, going for about 54 miles, crossing through 11 cities and towns. The Farmington Canal Heritage Trail is an 81-mile multi-use trail connecting New Haven, Connecticut to Northampton, Massachusetts. The trail passes through urban, suburban, and rural areas and runs along abandoned rail corridors and canal towpaths. It has been considered as the most scenic and historic greenways in New England. Along the way are historic buildings, canal locks, the remains of canal aqueducts, and other rich cultural landmarks. The trail shown here on this map and the entire Connecticut section of the trail has been completed for the exception of the 2 miles in the town of Southington, which has an anticipated construction date of 2022, and the 5.3-mile gap in the town of Plainville. It's also important to note that 47 miles of the Farmington Canal Heritage Trail is part of the East Coast Greenway. The East Coast Greenway is a 3,000-mile walking and biking route stretching from Maine to Florida and connecting 15 states and 450 cities. It is a linear park separated from motor vehicle traffic that connects major cities, small towns, and the nature around them. This infrastructure is designed to promote healthy lifestyles, sustainable transportation, and community engagement. 200 miles of the East Coast Greenway passes through the state of Connecticut, and 47 miles of which is part of the Farmington Canal Heritage Trail. This highlights the importance of closing the 5.3-mile gap in the town of Plainville. The railroads in the town of Plainville are still currently active, and there are no abandoned railroads for the trail to be constructed on. So the town of Plainville, and in coordination with Capital Region Council of Governments, initiated the gap closure study in order to find a preferred alignment. Various other local and regional agencies participated in the workshops, including Connecticut DOT, DEP, Town of Southington, and the City of New Britain. Some of the main factors that were taken into consideration were safety, off-road, connectivity, security, right-of-way, and environment. At the conclusion of the study in February 2018, the green alignment shown here was chosen as the preferred alignment. Upon receiving the proposed alignment, our design team conducted several field investigations and has decided to break it into 3 separate phases in order to maintain construction continuity for the next 4 years. Highlighted here are the 3 phases. Phase 1 will be from Town Line Road to Norton Park. Phase 2 will be from Route 72 to Northwest Drive, and Phase 3 will be from Norton Park to Route 72. Phase 1 is currently in preliminary design, and Phase 2 and 3 are at concept level. And again, for tonight's presentation, we are focusing on Phase 1, which is from Town Line Road to Norton Park. Here is a close-up look at Phase 1. The trail will pick up from the Southington Trail at Town Line Road and will go parallel to the Farmington Canal, utilizing an elevated berm known as the towpath, and will connect to Norton Park. This section is approximately 4,000 feet long and it will be 100% off-road. So here is a look at the existing conditions in the area, and as stated, the trail will pick up from the Southington Trail at Town Line Road and will go parallel to the Farmington Canal, utilizing the towpath connecting all the way to Norton Park. In this section here, we're proposing boardwalk to traverse some wetlands and a couple of pedestrian bridges in this section and in this area to close the hydraulic breach in the towpath. We're also proposing a parking lot on these couple of lots where there's currently no houses built on them and no one resides there. We're also proposing benches along the trail and kiosks and historical signs. Here is a look at the existing conditions of the wetlands in the area, and this is where we are proposing a boardwalk. The boardwalk will be precast concrete with wood railings on both sides. It'll be approximately 13 feet 3 inches wide. And once constructed, it'll look like this boardwalk that was recently designed and built as part of the Farmington Canal Heritage Trail in the town of Cheshire, Connecticut. Here is a look at the hydraulic breach in the towpath. And this is where we're proposing a pedestrian bridge. The bridge will resemble the boardwalk and it'll have the same width. And once constructed, it will resemble this bridge in the town of Cheshire, Connecticut. Here is a look at the existing condition of the towpath. And this is where we're proposing the multi-use trail, which will be 12-foot wide paved path with 2-foot grass shoulders on both sides. And again, once the trail is constructed, it'll look like this section, which was recently designed and built by this team as part of the Farmington Canal Heritage Trail in the town of Cheshire, Connecticut. Here is a close-up look at the proposed location for the parking lot. The parking lot is proposed on these two lots where there's currently no houses built on them and no one resides there. The parking lot will have approximately 53 parking spaces, and the entrance for it will be from Redstone Hill Road shown here. The proposed parking lot will look similar to the one shown here in Cheshire, and a parking lot is needed for this location as the nearest two parking lots are 1 mile to the south and 5 miles to the north and have less than 25 parking spaces and currently used to their full capacity. As a federally funded project, this undertaking must comply with Section 106 of the National Historic Preservation Act. Historic properties assessment undertaken through the Connecticut DOT Office of Environmental Planning has revealed that the project will affect remnants of the Farmington Canal, which is a source listed in part upon the National Register of Historic Places as a linear district, through placement of the new multi-use trail upon the embankment that once formed the towpath of the canal. The department expects to take precautionary measures to ensure this work will result in no adverse effect to the district. No other historic property impacts are anticipated, and consultation with stakeholders is ongoing. Our design team has been coordinating with the Plainville Historical Society and has met with the members to discuss the proposed project and the proposed historical signs. The Plainville Historical Society and the members are in support of the project and believe that the project will make it easier for the public to access the site and learn more about the history of the canal. Shown here is an example of a proposed sign along the Farmington Canal. The project is anticipated to be constructed in spring 2023, and one construction season will be needed for the project, and a temporary access road will be needed for the construction of the boardwalk. No traffic detours will be needed for this project. The total construction cost will be $4,250,000, and the construction will be state and federally funded. 7 partial property acquisitions, and 2 lots where there is currently no houses built on them and no one resides there will be needed for the construction of the trail and the parking lot.
I am Matt Giannakopoulos, and I am a right-of-way coordinator with the Department's Division of Rights-of-Way. It is our office's responsibility to acquire the property rights needed for transportation projects. The proposed project design requires the acquisition of property rights, so I'd like to give a brief overview of the Department's right-of-way acquisition process. Please keep in mind, though, that the specific impacts are still being fine-tuned and may change as the design progresses. Any property rights that will be acquired in accordance with Connecticut General Statutes Sections 13A-73 and 13A-98E. And whenever there is federal money used in any phase of a project, the department must adhere to the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Properties Acquisition Policies Act of 1970 as amended. Once the design has moved to the point where we are ready to begin the acquisition process, each affected property owner will receive a formal letter of intent to acquire from our office, along with a property map which depicts the exact property rights to be acquired. At that point, our office will determine the fair market value of those property rights and use that value to establish an offer of just compensation. The offer will be sent out to the owner in writing, and a right-of-way agent will be available to meet with the property owners and explain the project, go over the specific impacts to the property, and explain how the state developed its offer. The property owner will have a reasonable time to consider the state's offer and enter into negotiations. If an agreement is reached, the state will prepare all the necessary paperwork and record the deed and the property map on the town land records. However, if negotiations reach an impasse, in order to keep everything on schedule, the department may acquire the necessary property rights through its power of eminent domain. In that event, the state files a notice of condemnation in Superior Court along with a monetary deposit in the amount of the state's offer. The property owner will have 6 months from that date to appeal for a reassessment of the damages if they thought the state's offer was inadequate. Now, whether or not the owner chooses to use their right to appeal, the money that was deposited in the court is available to be withdrawn by the owner at any time, subject to the discretion of the Superior Court. I know sometimes people think when they hear eminent domain that it means the state just takes their property for $1, but that's not the case. The owners are entitled to at least the amount of the state's offer, and the state only takes title to the property rights that are needed for the project. If there are any questions regarding the department's right-of-way acquisition process, I'd be happy to address them during the Q&A portion of tonight's meeting.
Thank you, Matt, and Manager Lee. My name is Bill Hogan, and I'm the project engineer for this project. At this time, the presentation is concluded, and I thank everyone in attendance tonight for their time. At this point, we will open up the question and answer session. As questions come in, I will relay them verbally through the meeting, and they will be responded to by Mr. Scott Bushy, the project manager. There will be 3 ways to provide questions and comments to the project team. The first is through the project email, which is dotproject109-173@ct.gov. The second is to call 860-944-1111 and leave a voicemail. The last option is to post questions and comments to the virtual meeting chat box. To submit a question through the chat box, click on the Show Q&A button in the top right of your screen, then click the Featured tab, and then click the Ask a Question button on the bottom right of your screen. The chat box for posting questions will only be available during tonight's presentation. Please note to reference the project number when leaving a voicemail, and that the comment period for emails and voicemails will be open through July 7th. I'd like to also note at this time that we will not be addressing questions and comments related to Plainville Trail sections 2 and 3. Each section 2 and 3 will have their own separate public info meeting in the future. And I'd like to also thank anybody who submitted early questions and comments through the project email. We will be addressing those during tonight's session. With that, we are starting to have some questions come in. So Scott, whenever some are published, I'll hand them to you.
Thanks, Bill. Hi, everyone. My name is Scott Bushy. I'm the project manager from Connecticut DOT in the highway design section, working with Bill and Ahmed and Matt Giannakopoulos on the project design, and I'll be handling most of the questions tonight.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, so we have our first question coming in through the chat box. What improvements to or along Norton Trail, if any, have been made due to this public trail project?
We're focusing on the results of the planning study from 2018. So a lot of work was done at that time to evaluate trail locations. There was a pretty elaborate study done with a team of folks called the steering committee, and alignment C was selected, which is what's shown here as the preferred alignment. And that's what we're looking at for the trail design. It goes on the towpath. That seems to be the most environmentally sensitive area to construct the trail, and that's where we're proposing it, and that is shown here on this slide. And if you look at this alignment, this is where the proposed trail is going to be on the old towpath. If you look at environmentally, the wetland locations in the stream, the old towpath is out of most of that, so it's the most environmentally sensitive area to put the trail because we're not going through the wetland pockets. So, the focus of this project is not to improve the Norton Trail that you're referring to. It's really looking to get connectivity down to Town Line Road, and this alignment really best accomplishes that.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, another question came in via the chat box. Months ago, a letter and petition signed by 20 plus or minus homeowners from Hollyberry Lane and Condale Drive was sent to Governor Lamont that the trail be pushed off the old Mule Hall Trail. To date, there has been no reply back to the request. Can you address why the request was denied? Thank you.
I can address why the trail is proposed in its current location, and what came out of the planning study was generally this corridor, alignment 4C back in 2018. And the options at that time showed the trail, the preferred alignment is on the towpath. And we discussed that it's on the towpath because it avoids all these sensitive wetland and watercourse areas. Even where the parking lot is, there's no wetlands impacted to construct the parking lot. The bulk of this is all out of the wetland areas, and this was the preferred alignment that was developed in 2018 out of the planning study. And that's why we're holding with that corridor alignment.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, and then we have another question via the chat. Is any town-owned or applicable any state-owned land along or directly off Norton Trail going to be cleared and used for any additional structures? I think I can answer this, Scott. So this is referring to Norton Trail, which is the roadway in Norton Park. However, that section falls under phase 3. At this time, we do not, we don't know what impacts are anticipated for phase 3. And as mentioned before, that phase 3 section will be discussed in a later public meeting. Okay, Scott, we have another question come in via the chat. Can you address the concerns of property owners on Redstone Hill and Hollyberry Lane related to trail users parking on their properties when the proposed lot is full, and the fact that Redstone Hill has a speeding problem already and that the road can barely accommodate the traffic it already has?
Several questions there. So first I'll address the parking. And our design team felt it was best to put a parking lot with the project. And we investigated a couple locations to put the parking lot. Norton Park was considered. We recognized in constructing the trail that the parking lots to the south in Southington were pretty small. They're already overtaxed. We were concerned about conflicts in Norton Park with trail users parking there. At the same time, there's other activities going on. There's sports activities and other sorts of recreational activities, people coming to walk, family fun, other events. And we felt having all the trail users park in Norton Park would detract from the current use of the park. So we proposed a parking lot off of Redstone Hill. It's about 53 parking spaces currently. Sorry about that, guys. My computer has a mind of its own tonight. So we proposed a parking lot off of Redstone Hill. It's 53 spaces. And we're feeling that that's going to be sufficient to handle the volume of trail users. You know, the concern that you brought up about trail users parking along Redstone Hill or possibly Town Line Road is the exact reason that we're proposing a parking lot of 53 spaces. You know, in other areas where ample parking hasn't been provided, people tend to make their own. They look for commercial businesses on the weekends that are unoccupied. They park in neighborhoods. So, you know, we believe that the 53 space parking lot is adequately sized. You know, that combined with Norton Park will certainly handle the needs of people coming to use this section of trail. And then as far as safety goes, the parking lot's going to have a gate at the entrance on Redstone Hill. DOT will provide that with the project, and the town will be able to lock it up at whatever hours they feel sufficient. Currently, we've heard a commitment from the town that they're going to close it at nighttime hours, but the exact hours can be determined by the town later. So, you know, I think that's going to help to control security. So we've addressed parking along the neighborhoods. You know, this supplemental parking lot here off of Redstone Hill should take care of that concern. And as far as safety goes, there's going to be a gate at the entrance, and that's going to be locked up at night.
Thank you,
Next
Scott.
question, Bill.
I'd like to just jump back to the petition that was sent to Governor Lamont. Anything sent to the governor's office, you know, has not been relayed to us. And, you know, for further information on the status of that petition, I would reach out to the governor's office or your state rep. Okay, Scott, we have a comment coming in from the project email. I am in full support of DOT Project 109-173. CT boasts 200 miles of the 3,000-mile East Coast Greenway, and it is one of the leaders in miles complete. The completion of the Plainville section, along with others in progress, Bloomfield, Manchester, Wyndham, Putnam, and Pomfret, brings CT close to 100%. Having complete spine route opens possibilities for ancillary routes, increasing opportunities for more passive transportation throughout throughout Connecticut. It also opens opportunities for Connecticut to become a tourist attraction. There are so many beautiful locations in the state. Seeing them and getting to them on foot or by bike is an active tourist dream come true. And of course, the health benefits of having safe places to walk, run, and cycle.
Thank you for that positive comment. The design team very much appreciates that.
Thank you for your support. So from the voicemail con, we have another comment. I live in Plainville, and I am calling to support the project. Anytime we can open up the outdoors and make it accessible to seniors, that is definitely a step in the right direction. I am 76 years old and go biking or walking on the trail often. Currently, I have to drive to another town to get to the trail. Having access to the trail in Plainville would be much more convenient. I can't wait for the trail to come to Plainville.
Thanks again for making that comment and supporting the design. We very much appreciate it here at DOT. We put a lot of work into the alignment and the thought based on the planning study. You know, was mentioned earlier in the design, we're planning some historic signing along with the Plainville Historic Society. You know, and we're feeling that's going to be an asset to the area. You know, the canal and the towpath are historic, and that's going to bring awareness to this resource in the town. We're also planning benches where people can sit and enjoy this very scenic area. The parking lot that's being proposed off of Redstone Hill really provides a nice connection to that neighborhood. Anyone living in those communities off of Hollyberry, Redstone, or in that area of town is going to be able to bike or walk right out of their backyard and access the trail very, very easily. So I think it's going to be a nice thing for your community and a good asset. Ahmed mentioned that we're going to provide kiosks. With the project, we'll do that at each end, and that's going to allow opportunities for the town to sign regulations and post any informational materials that they like. We'll also provide a kiosk at the parking lot, which will have additional information for the trail, regulations, hours of operation, things like that. Sometimes towns post speed limits, but those kiosks will facilitate that as well. What's next, Bill?
Thank you, Scott. Okay, through the chat box, are trail cameras going to be implemented for additional safety to users and nearby residents / homeowners? What time does the trail legally close to the public?
So trail cameras are not part of the design. That's certainly something the town could add later, but it's currently not part of our design. The hours of operation, that'll be controlled by the town. And when I mentioned, we'll provide informational kiosks at the Southington end, the parking lot, and then also Norton Park. That's where hours of operation could be posted. And, you know, DOT is here to build this trail really for the town of Plainville. It provides connectivity and a pretty valuable pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure. But we're here to build this for the town. The town is going to end up taking ownership and maintenance for it when it's complete, and the town will have the ability to regulate it as they wish. So I hope that answered your question. What do we got next, Bill?
Okay, coming in from the chat. What are you planning for privacy, safety, and security fencing in the area of elevated boardwalk at the entrance of Town Line Road?
Fencing is going to be limited to wood type fencing, which is shown in a few of these pictures. See if I can find it. So along the boardwalk, you're going to have this wood fencing on the side. So you're going to have a concrete boardwalk with timber fencing on the side. That type of fencing will be continued along the trail. It'll be a 3-rail wood fence, similar to what's shown in this picture here, the 3-rail wood fence. So along the canal side of the trail, a lot of it's going to have that type of fencing. And I'll make the picture a little bigger here so you can see it. But you can see this 3-rail wood fence that's going into a boardwalk section, which also has a fence on it. So that's pretty tall. It does a pretty good job of keeping trail users on the trail and also protect folks and kids from ending up into the canal itself. As far as privacy fencing, we do not have anything planned in the project. We do have, I'm going to call restorative type vegetation planned, particularly in the area of the parking lot. That effort is intended to be sort of a reforestation with native type plantings proposed. And we'll be providing restorative landscaping along the entire length of the project, but it's certainly not an arborvitae type screening effort. But thank you for your question. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, so the next question that came in, is there more information on phase 2 and phase 3? So I'll take that to Scott. So for additional information on phase 2 and 3, they're both in the concept design phases right now. But if you would like, to reach out to myself, my email is william.hogan@ct connecticut.gov, and I'd be happy to discuss phase 2 and 3 with you.
Yeah, another place someone could go for information is the planning study, the gap closure trail study that was completed, and that's got a website. It's gapclosurestudy.com, and that has a lot of information on the entire corridor throughout Plainville that will cover phase 2 and 3 as well, at least at the concept and planning level.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, I would also like to note that, there are we have quite a few questions and comments coming in, so we will be addressing them as they come in. So please be patient if you just submitted a question or comment. It may take us a little time to get to it. Okay, Scott, the next question coming from the chat. Will the trail be open for use upon completion of each phase?
Yes. Yes, and that's exactly why we're planning to build this in phases. And I appreciate asking that question. Thank you. Looking at all of Plainville and the 5-mile gap that we have to close, here's the 3 phases. We've got phase 1, which is Norton Park to Town Line Road. Then we've got phase 2, which is Northwest Drive down to Route 72, and in the middle, Route 72 to phase 3. This 5 miles is a pretty big undertaking, especially through the downtown area. There's a lot of environmental permits throughout the entire corridor, a lot of design work, a lot of effort going into producing plans and contracts to get this built. So our approach was to build this in pieces so that the public would get the most enjoyment out of it as we're building it. So we're going to construct phase 1. Excuse me, guys, my computer just has a mind of its own tonight. So we're going to construct phase 1, and that will be open. That's really an extension of the trail coming up from Southington. So Southington's going to be completed in 2022. We'll be done the next year in 23 with this section. That'll add an additional 3/4 of a mile to that trail network that's coming up from the south. The next phase will be phase 2. That's going to take the section from Farmington that's already completed and extend that section to the south down to Route 72, which really provides the most value. You can go from the north down or from the south and continue up, and then we'll close the gap in the middle, the last. But as we construct each piece, yes, they will be open as soon as they're done. Thank you for that question.
Thank you, Scott. And I think I'd just like to note that Southington section, that start construction date, or I believe that's a start construction date of 2022 and finish construction in 2023. Okay, so we had an email comment come in. I am a user of the Farmington Canal Trail and River Trail. I fully support closing the Plainville Gap, and this project is a next step in making that happen. The trail is a CT gem and needs to be completed from New Haven to the Massachusetts line. It provides great, safe recreational activities for many, as well as alternative transportation routes for walkers, cyclists, runners, etc. Please keep this project moving forward to completion, then complete the rest of the trail.
Thank you for writing in with that comment. We appreciate the support. Thank you very much.
Okay, Scott, from the chat, why were households being affected not surveyed before the planning?
I'm not sure I'm clear on that question. The bulk of the trail is being built on town-owned property. Certainly anything along Hollyberry to the north is all town open space property. Once we get into the Solely property where we're acquiring land for the parking lot, then we start to need to acquire some easements for trail construction from private owners. And we do have 6 properties affected that are privately owned, essentially from the Solely section all the way down to Town Line Road. When we started the design of the project, this entire area was surveyed. The entire corridor where the trail is shown right now, the towpath, the first thing we did on the design is go out and survey all this land. So we had topography to work with, we had property lines to work with, and we had environmental resources such as wetlands located on our survey for the design work. So we did do a complete survey of everything shown along the trail corridor for the design work. That was done when we started the project. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Scott. And I'm not sure if that question was related to being surveyed, regarding thoughts or opinions on the project, to which I would note that, the gap closure, was a robust study, that completed in 2018, which did include several stakeholder meetings in determining the defining characteristics and, various alternate alignments for the trail.
If it was related to soil borings, that's also part of the survey work that we've been doing in the past 6 months. And, we wanted to get the trail alignment at a point where we were fairly confident on the alignment and where the bridges had to go before we initiated the boring program. So that wasn't something that made sense to do early on, but we've just recently completed that work.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Coming from the chat, will funds be available for fencing to block out the path?
Fencing under the project is going to be limited to what's shown here in the picture. Along the boardwalk and the bridges, there'll be a timber fencing, kind of what's shown here. And then along the trail itself, it's going to be a 3-rail wood fence. It's not a privacy fence. It's really a fence to protect people from getting into the canal and kind of keep them on the alignment of the trail. Anything beyond that, when the DOT's done constructing the project, we're going to turn it over to the town. The town will have authority over it and maintenance. And if additional plantings are desired, that's something that folks could put in later if they wanted to, but they will not be privacy plantings per se with full screening as part of the project. We will be doing a landscape design with the project as a restorative effort in areas where we disturb trees for construction of the bridges and boardwalk. We will be replanting those areas, and the intent is really a natural growth and a reforestation of these areas to grow up kind of as they are now, but not a row of like arborvitaes as you might think for screening purposes. Thank you for the question.
Okay, Scott, coming in from the chat, how is the trail/trash maintenance monitored? Is that a town responsibility or are organizations formed to monitor?
I'd say it's both. Initially, it's a town responsibility. The town will have maintenance responsibility and authority to regulate the trail when it's completed, as the town desires. But what we've seen in other areas, there certainly are community groups that form and do plantings and maintenance along the trail, and that may happen in Plainville too. That's certainly a possibility, but the DOT will not be providing the maintenance as far as trash pickup and things like that along the trail. It's going to be with the town, but frequently there are community groups that step up and help out with sort of these sort of things. But initially, yeah, it does lie with the town of Plainville. Thanks for the question.
Okay, Scott, excuse me. Coming in from the chat, the canal along Hollyberry Lane is a catch basin when it rains. When there is heavy rain, the canal is full of water and flowing like a river. If you're planning to use the towpath for this trail, it would seem there would be some changes to the towpath made, which will directly affect the integrity of the canal to handle this water flow. Have you considered this impact?
That's part of the reason we're putting a bridge at the hydraulic opening in the towpath, and that's shown here on this plan. And that's close to that area you're referring to with the culvert that comes out and fills up the canal. And A lot of that water goes through this hydraulic breach and then down towards Town Line Road. So that bridge will maintain the existing opening that's there now. Thank you for that question.
So I think just to follow up, Scott, I think what they're referring to are, side slopes, in entering into the canal and affecting the hydraulic capacity.
We certainly don't see a conflict there. We're looking to minimize any work along the canal to the greatest extent possible. The filling that we're going to be doing in constructing the towpath, we're really looking to maintain the grade and width of the towpath to the extent possible. Where we do have to fill a little and widen to get a 12-foot trail is primarily going to be on the eastern side, not on the canal side, but on the eastern side of the towpath. The canal should be relatively unchanged by this project. It's a wetland water resource, and we're looking to avoid that as much as possible. Thanks. Next question, Bill.
Okay, thank you, Scott. I'd just like to take a quick moment, if anybody's joining late, just to reiterate, the 3 methods for posting questions and comments. So shown in the top right of the screen, questions or comments can be posted to the project email, which is dotproject109-173@ct.gov. You can also call 860-944-1111 and leave a voicemail, or you can post questions and comments to the virtual meeting chat box. Okay, so Scott coming in from voicemail. Good evening. I'd like to provide my strong support for this project. The project looks like it's had a lot of thought put into it, and it looks like it's coming together very nice. I look forward to it. From what I've always understood, it has always enhanced the values of surrounding homes, and I just can't wait till it comes to mind. Thank your team. You've done a great job.
Oh, thanks a lot for that comment, folks. Really appreciate that. And we did put a lot of work into this. The design team that's working on this section also worked on the section in Cheshire. If you could see the beautiful boardwalk that was done here and the scenery, I think you're going to have something similar to that in Plainville if we're able to move ahead. Just showing, I'm going to throw up a few shots of the trail section in Plainville too. Our goal here is an opportunity for family fun, something that's safe for families to use, something it's affordable. This is something you can go out with your kids and everyone in the family can enjoy. And that's our goal, something that works for all users. And this is the end goal here for Plainville too. And I hope that your community gets a lot of use out of it and enjoys it. But thank you for your support. We appreciate it.
Okay. Scott coming in from the chat. Excuse me. Do you anticipate any parking issues at Norton Park's lot adjacent to the public pool?
We don't, and that's part of the reason that we're planning the parking lot off of Redstone Hill with 53 spaces. 53 parking spaces is quite a bit. I do think occasionally there'll be some parking at Norton Park, and that's something that the town can regulate as needed. If conflicts are identified, it's certainly something that the town can post and direct trail users where they want them to park. That's actually part of the reason that DOT recommended constructing this additional parking space over off of Redstone Hill, is that we didn't want to see the use of the trail detract too much from the current use of Norton Park. So I don't believe it will have a terrible effect where the pool is, but it's something the town can monitor. And if changes need to be made, you know, the town can post that parking lot and regulate it and direct trail users where they want them to go and park. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, coming in from the chat. I am strongly in favor of the project and support the most direct route along the towpath. This is the optimal alignment for tens of thousands of trail users as well as to protect wetlands. Is it possible to have a 1 to 2 foot stone dust running path next to the paved trail instead of a grass shoulder?
It's something that we can look into and discuss with the town. And I'll just say thank you for the comment. Certainly something that we can look into. The width is already there. It would be kind of limited sections. I'm not sure if it makes a lot of sense in this piece, but something we'll talk about with the town. You have a pretty lengthy boardwalk here of 3 feet, so there won't be any stone dust. Then maybe a short section where you could provide it, then back to a bridge, you know, and then a gap here where you could provide it, then another bridge. So, you know, it's kind of limited. And if you had the stone dust, you'd kind of be in and out of it going through the structures. But that's something that we can explore with the town. But so, you know, thank you for the comment and we'll investigate. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Coming in from the chat. You continually have spoken about the trail. What about the safety of the people that you are forcing this, who are next to the nightmare on without their approval?
Well, if the concern is safety for nearby residents, most of the trail is bordered by the canal. So you've got this water course, remember, that's going to be pretty close to the trail. Then there's a wood fence along the trail. And between the wood fence and the water course, that's a pretty good physical barrier between the trail and Hollyberry. You know, this section of the canal often has at least 2 feet of water in it. You'd get pretty wet trying to go through it and climb down through it. And then down on the south end too, you've got these wetland areas and water courses. It's just not a place that people are likely to transition through and try to explore into the neighborhoods. The parking area, we're going to delineate that with landscaping and plantings, and that's going to kind of keep people within the parking area. We're planning for a wood railing on the entrances to the parking lot, kind of in and out, and that'll kind of keep people on the driveway and access way in. The parking lot's going to be closed at night. It'll have a physical gate with a lock at the entrance off Redstone Hill. So it's certainly not expected to be a facility that would create a safety problem. Other areas of the state where we have this trail network, you know, incidents have happened, but they're pretty minor and typically not affecting neighborhoods off of the trail. So we don't expect, based on what we've seen elsewhere in the state, for concerns within residential areas as far as safety that's initiated from use of the trail. But, you know, thank you for your concern. You know, that's part of the reason that we did put the gate in the parking lot, and that was at the town's request. So thank you. Next question, Bill.
Okay, Scott, from the email, why not go through Robert Jackson Way to Norton Park, skipping going through Hollyberry residents' backyards?
So I'll cover that briefly, but as we had mentioned previously, there was a planning study done in 2018, gapclosurestudy.com. If anybody wants to go look at that, the study document is still on that website, gapclosurestudy.com, 2018. And the trail alignment that we're working with today was developed through that study. And this particular slide here, I'll enhance it, shows a little bit more information on that. So here's the preferred alignment that comes out of the planning study here in the solid green. And that's the reason that we're here tonight with the design. There was a lot of work done to go through this gap closure study. There was a lot of meetings. I've got a slide here that indicates the meetings, I believe. But numerous neighborhood meetings were held, and this is the preferred alignment that came out of it right here. Preferred alignment, the solid red line. So, you know, that was all addressed as part of the planning study for the gap closure project that was done. And, you know, we're not here now to go back and redo all that previous work that was done. So I'd encourage you to go back and read the study from gapclosurestudy.com, and that would have additional information that you're looking for. www.gapclosurestudy.com. Next question, Bill.
Okay, from the chat, Scott. Why is it necessary to use eminent domain for securing property? A landowner in Cheshire was required to sell property even though they granted access for the trail through their farm, which then caused them to lose access to the opposite side of his property. Do you want me to reread that, Scott?
No. So I'll just briefly describe the rights-of-way process, and we don't have to use eminent domain here. We've got about 6 properties that are private residential that are affected that we need to buy a corridor through to put the trail. DOT is going to do an appraisal on the property. There'll be a discussion and negotiation attempt with the property owner to reach a mutual agreed upon value. And usually what happens at those meetings, the property owner expresses some concerns. You know, we try to meet them to the extent possible with the design. There's usually some back and forth. At the end, there's kind of a highest and best offer made to the property owner. And, you know, if we can't reach an agreement, that's the only time that the state would typically move ahead with eminent domain. And what eminent domain means is DOT would move ahead with the rights-of-way process, but the money is still there for the property owner. And if the property owner chooses to file an appeal, which they have the right to do, that's an appeal for greater compensation so that they have an opportunity to get paid more than what the state had felt was the best offer. But the state would still move ahead with the project. So, you know, just correcting you, it doesn't have to be an eminent domain situation. And, you know, we would hope to avoid that. And we would hope that we can come to an agreement when we talk. But if there is a conflict and we're not able to reach an agreement, then the state would utilize that tool. Now, as far as concern for access to the rest of the property beyond the trail, I think I have a slide here that shows some of the affected properties. We can discuss that briefly. So this particular property here, you know, 190 has quite a bit of land on the back side of the trail. And if that's something that property owner wanted to retain, we can discuss that. The state doesn't necessarily have to own all of this property, but that's something that we can discuss if the property owner has interest in retaining rights to it in some way. You know, I won't give a commitment here tonight, but, you know, it's certainly things that we can discuss. But thank you for bringing it up. And I think it's really probably a better question to take up with us offline. And if you send us an email with your contact information, more than happy to reach out to you and have a talk about your specific situation and which property you want to retain beyond the trail and you know, intended use for it. And we'll see if we can work something out. So Bill, thank you for that question. What do you got next?
Why is the cost at $4.25 million for 0.75 miles?
Well, we've got asphalt construction. We've got almost 300 feet of boardwalk, 2 bridges, and a 53 space parking lot. And that estimate is the full construction estimate. That includes incidentals during construction, contingencies, you know, every item. That's the full construction. That's the price based on current information that's out there based on roadway projects. And if you'd like more detail on it, maybe reach out with your contact information, and I'd be certainly willing to go through the details of the specifics on what each piece of it cost. Thanks for the question.
Okay, Scott. We have from the project email. The East Coast Greenway Alliance has been involved with the development of the Farmington Canal Heritage Trail for nearly 30 years. The design team at CTDOT has been open and accessible to both advocates and detractors. The trail will be a boon to the town, the region, and the state as a spine trail designated by CTDOT in the last active transportation plan of 3 years ago. Thanks to the town, DOT, and elected. Our thanks to the town, DOT, and elected officials for their support for this valuable project.
Thanks again for the positive support. We very much appreciate that.
Okay, Scott, this is coming from the project email. I live on Town Line Road directly adjacent to the 280-foot boardwalk. What is the distance from the property line to the boardwalk? Is there any proposed barrier between my property and the boardwalk?
So that question I think requires a little bit more partnering and in-depth working than something I can ask here tonight. So, I'd like you to, if you didn't include your contact information in the email, please reach out to us again. I'd like to come out and meet with you at your property. I'd like to point out where the boardwalk is going to go. I'd like to show you your property line and discuss all these things in detail. And it's just, I'd like to give you a lot more information than we can do here tonight in this public forum, and you deserve that. So please provide our contact information and we'll spend a lot more time with you. But thank you for writing in.
Okay, thank you, Scott. And I'd like to note that my email address is william.hogan@ct.gov. Okay. Let's see. All right, Scott, coming in from email. The folks along Hollyberry and Condale need to be heard and have their concerns addressed, just like the Hazel Meadow in Simsbury. Residents requested and were granted 8-foot high wood fencing.
Thank you for the comment about the fencing. What's provided in the project now is not a privacy fencing. It's a 3-rail wood fence. You've got a pretty big barrier between the towpath and Hollyberry. You've got the canal. There's going to be a 3-rail wood fence here. Really not much of an opportunity for people to leave the trail and access Hollyberry Lane. And the distance between the towpath and the houses on Hollyberry is quite a bit. There's pretty big wooded areas in these backyards that really separate the trail from those properties. But I appreciate the comment tonight, and we'll take it into consideration. And that's really the purpose of tonight's meeting, is for DOT to gather comments just like that and hear residents' concerns. And we'll bring it back and we'll have discussions on it. But thank you for bringing it up.
Okay, Scott. From the chat box, we have another question related to fencing. I believe this has been addressed earlier. Will funds be available for fencing to block out the path?
So the project does not have privacy fencing in it. We have a 3-rail wood fencing that I've shown a couple of times, but we'll go back and review that. This is the type of fencing that's going to be provided with the project. And this would go along the canal. So you'd have this pretty tall 3-rail wood fencing here, and then water on the other side where the canal is. So it's not likely someone's going to hop over that or walk through the canal to go into the residential areas. And the project is not providing a full screening privacy type fence. Could it be put up later? Certainly something that could be done later, but it's not provided with the construction of the project. Next question, Bill.
Okay. Comment to the chat box. This project is terrific. Move as quickly to construction on this and the other 2 phases. Finishing This missing link will continue Connecticut.
More positive support. Thank you very much for writing in with that comment. We do appreciate it.
Okay, Scott. From the chat box, how close will the trail be to the canal?
Basically on the towpath. For anyone that lives in the area and is familiar with it. Let's see. You know, this gives you a pretty good sense of how close the trail is to the canal. You know, right here, we're basically building the trail. Let me enlarge the slide a little bit. Full screen. So if you look at the picture on the bottom left, you know, this shows the remnants of the towpath with the canal right at the bottom. And that trail is going to go right on top of those old remnants that are kind of eroded. Any widening that's done to kind of restore the footprint here so we can get a trail on it. If you look at the plan in the top right, this question came up earlier about the widening. That widening is going to be done on the easterly side. So we're not going into the water area of the towpath that's environmentally sensitive. We're in the canal. We're staying out of the canal with all the construction. Any of the widening will be done in the wooded area on the eastern side of the towpath. But you know, the canal is very close. We're basically using the old towpath for the trail. So I hope that answered the question. Bill, next question.
Okay. Thank you, Scott. Comment via the chat box. Leadership in completing the East Coast Greenway.
Bill, I lost you. Maybe you're muted.
No, it does. So the comment is just leadership in completing the East Coast Greenway.
Oh, positive support. I mean, thank you. We appreciate that. And as was mentioned when we were starting out, Farmington Heritage Canal through Connecticut, the trail, it's 54 miles, basically from Suffield, Massachusetts to New Haven, 54 miles. 47 miles of that are pretty much completed. So we've only got 5 miles or so to go. The Southington section is going to be done in another 2 years. And then Plainville is the last gap. I mean, that leaves this basically bicycle and pedestrian facility at 90% complete. So, you know, we're working hard to close that gap and make it 100%. And that'll allow Connecticut to have a continuous facility from Massachusetts state line right through to New Haven. We have about 47-mile overlap with the East Coast Greenway on that same trail network. So, you know, this project really closes gaps in 2 trail networks. It's East Coast Greenway that's getting a gap closure, which is pretty critical along the entire East Coast, and then also the Farmington Heritage Canal Trail from Suffield down to New Haven that will be completed with this too. So 2 critical infrastructure projects that are affected through the trail gap closure in Plainville. But thank you for that comment, much appreciated.
Thank you. Okay, Scott, coming in from email. The planned Farmington Canal multi-use path is an important project for both Plainville and the central Connecticut area. The trail attracts users from all over the state and from many other areas as well. I am one of many examples as I live in the eastern CT but ride the canal trail often. Probably the most important reason for the trail improvement is public safety. The alternate route of going down Route 10 carries significant hazards to bikers, hikers, and is unsuitable for children and older walkers. Placing the trail along the historic Farmington Canal towpath will both diminish the chances for accidents and will also attract more users because people will be safe and secure.
Thank you for writing in with that comment. You know, we appreciate it. And, you know, what was developed through the 2018 gap closure study, one of the critical criteria for selecting an alignment was to have an off-road facility. You know, off-road meaning you're not on a side path, you're not crossing curb cuts and driveways, you're not going down the shoulder of the road, and that's why this particular alignment was strongly supported. It's good, safe family fun. and that's what we're hoping to provide here. But thank you for your support. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott. Coming in from the voicemail, I am in full support of this project, and I am just wondering, what is the timeline for this project? When are you guys expecting it to be completed?
So the purpose of tonight's meeting is really to gather feedback and comments and reevaluate things that maybe should be incorporated into the project if we can. We're at the 30% design stage now. That's typically when we hold these public involvement meetings. And when we're at the 30% stage, that affords a lot of opportunity to include public comment and things that come out of things like tonight's meeting. So we've got a long ways to go. And, essentially our alignment, I think, is pretty well set, but we have environmental permitting and quite a bit of it we have to go through in a right-of-way process. So to actually get to where we can start construction, we're looking at 2023. So we've got another 2 years before we're ready to put a shovel in the ground. And then at that point, we're hoping we can complete the project in one season, meaning one construction season, basically April through November. But that will depend somewhat on the environmental permitting and how limiting they are with time of year restrictions. And, if we run into severe limitations with time of year restrictions, we might have to go into the following season to complete that. But we should be getting started in 2 years, and this will be a nice continuation of the section coming up from Southington. Thank you for the comment.
Thank you, Scott. Okay. From the chat box, how is being in someone's backyard beautiful? Where is the privacy of those individuals?
Thank you for writing in with a comment. We appreciate your concern. If you want to talk more details about your specific property, please reach out to us and we can meet one-on-one and discuss your particular concerns. But, essentially the project is using open space land that's behind Hollyberry. This is all town open space land here. We're on the old tow path. Private properties are not affected up along the Hollyberry. To the south, yes, it is, but we tried to be as sensitive as we could with the alignments, and we've really done the best we can to keep it out of people's backyard. But meanwhile, we want to provide a safe facility for the trail users. We don't really want to put the trail on the roadside. We're looking for this to be something that families can enjoy and families can be safe using, and that really meant an off-road facility. And in the Plainville area, this is really the best corridor we have for an off-road facility for safety. But we appreciate your concern and we'll discuss.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, so I'd like to mention that, we still have quite a few questions and comments that have come in. If you have submitted a question and comment, we will get to them in the order which they were received. I'd like to also point out, we have 3 methods for posting questions and comments to the project team. The project email, all shown up at the top left of the screen here. The project email, the Microsoft Teams, by calling and leaving a voicemail. That call number is 860-944-1111. Okay, Scott, comment coming in from the chat box. Kudos to Scott and the whole team.
Thank you for the positive feedback. We appreciate it, and we'll do the best we can for this community.
Okay, Scott, from the chat box, just a comment that I would like to echo the positive sentiments. I am a Plainville resident and I am excited about the trail completion. It is going to be a huge asset to Plainville and homeowners, whether they know it or not. There are businesses in Plattsville/Southington that absolutely get business from bicyclists and trail users. Thank you for your hard work.
We really appreciate the feedback. Thank you very much. And something that has been found in other areas where the trails were developed is that adjacent properties become desirable. Some people look to have a property where they can bike or walk out of their town, out of their driveway. And, end up on a facility like this. And this one's kind of unique. You've got 54 miles once this is constructed. This isn't like a small hub. This is a pretty major network that you have access to. So it can be attractive to some folks and looking for property to buy. But I hope for the folks that live here that, you'll find it enjoyable. The folks off of Redstone Hill and Hollyberry, you've got access through the parking lot and parking lot driveway that we're building. You can pretty much come right out of your driveway and go down Redstone and access the trail parking lot and right onto the trail and go. So that could be convenient for the folks that want to use it. But thanks for the comment. We appreciate the support.
Okay, thank you, Scott. From the chat box, we can already access the park. We don't need the trail in our backyards.
So, I appreciate your feedback. You understand your concern. And as we started out the presentation earlier tonight, we had mentioned that there's a 5-mile gap in this corridor, and it's 54 miles long. Essentially 90% of this infrastructure from Massachusetts town state line all the way to New Haven is constructed, 90% of it. This is the last 10% through Plainville. So it's pretty cool, pretty critical infrastructure. It affects 2 trail networks. It's the Farmington Heritage Canal Trail network, in addition to East Coast Greenway. So both very, very critical pedestrian and bicycle infrastructures. And there is a need, but thank you for your concern. We're here to listen to everyone tonight. So, all comments have value, and thank you for writing in, and, we'll go through and review all of them after the meeting as well. Bill, what do you got next?
Okay, Scott, coming in to the chat, I'm strongly in favor of this project and further projects to close the gap in this interstate trail. Off-road trails are the safest infrastructure for active transportation, and many cyclists, including children, do not feel safe riding on the road with vehicles. I live in New Haven and would love to ride further north and patronize businesses in Plainville, but my trip ends at Lazy Lane and Southington each time. However, I am opposed to the parking lot proposed for this project. It will require property acquisition, clear cutting the environment, and paving more impervious surface than necessary. This is a trail that connects cyclists, runners, rollers, etc. through the towns across the state. It is not a singular destination that would traditionally require parking, especially since there is a large parking lot at Norton Park. If the design team feels that creating automobile infrastructure is absolutely necessary for a trail, I would like to see a trip generation and parking study that takes into account existing trip generation and parking at Norton Park. Thank you very much for helping complete the gap.
Well, thank you for your support. We appreciate the support on the trail, and we do also appreciate your concern for the parking lot. And, that's something that we'll consider moving ahead. Our thoughts are that people that want to use the trail don't all live within walking or biking distance to it. Not everybody has the health to be able to walk or bike to this trail from where they live, and a high percentage of trail users have to drive from where they live, especially with children, if they want to keep them off road to be able to access the trail. And remote parking lots are needed to accommodate these types of trail users, a lot of which are families. So that's part of the reason for the parking lot that's planned there. The other part is, there is existing parking in Norton Park, but that's already dedicated for use in Norton Park. You have the pool, you have other athletic activities that occur within Norton Park, and bringing trail users to this area to access the trail, I feel is going to be a pretty strong conflict with the current use of Norton Park. So the alternate parking is recommended by DOT, and we'll review all these comments and discuss with the town and how to proceed. But in other areas where adequate parking hasn't been provided, you end up with trail users parking in neighborhoods and commercial business parking lots, and it does cause conflicts and problems in the neighborhoods. So that's why we propose this. But thank you for your comments related to support of the trail continuity, and then also your comments opposing the parking lot. We do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, from the chat box, I also fully support this project as a safe place for people to run, walk, and ride. The trail is especially a great place for us to teach our young athletes to ride safely on their bikes and to share this wonderful resource with their neighbors. I can't wait for it all to connect throughout the state.
Thank you for that comment. Again, we appreciate the support, and our goal is an off-road facility here that's safe, family fun, and thank you for very, very much for the support.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, coming in from chat, what are the plans for safety and or privacy to those houses directly affected by the trail being set up in the backyard and or along the side of houses? Scott, maybe it might be beneficial to jump to one of the images with fencing and vegetation.
Sure. The questions come up quite a few times. And here's a good picture. So this is the existing towpath in the bottom left corner. There's some trees growing up through the towpath. They're not mature. Most of them are fairly small. Those would be removed, and then the towpath widened. If you look at the picture on the top right, the towpath would be widened to the easterly side, away from the canal, away from the environmental resource. And then we would be providing a 3-rail wood fence here, kind of shown in this rendering. It would look very similar to the one on the bottom with the 3 rails and the bicycles next to it. So as far as a safety or security type thing, this fencing really helps to keep people on the trail and protect them from falling into the water, especially if you have children on bicycles, things like that. So, that railing is really a safety feature for the folks on the bicycles, but it does also aid in keeping people on the trail. It's pretty high. You've got to work to get over it, and then if you did try to leave the trail to access these residential properties, you've got all this water go through. It's just not likely that someone's going to do that. And in other areas in the state where we have these trails, there really hasn't been a strong history of incidents where people are using the trail to access residential properties for anything involving crime or anything like that. But the comments come up quite a few times tonight, and it is something that we'll discuss. And I do appreciate you bringing your concerns to us tonight. And that's really why we're here. We're here to listen to everybody and hear concerns and comments. And thank you.
And then follow along those lines, Scott. Do you mind heading down a couple slides to there's one labeled trail users, and there's a couple labeled trail users that show existing vegetation growing up and behind fencing and adjacent to the trail that is just grass. Yeah, so these slides, Scott.
I mean, after the trail is constructed, there's going to be vegetation planted by DOT. It's not going to be a hedgerow of arborvitaes. Our goal is really a reforestation of what's there. It's a replanting of natural occurring species. So it's not going to be just grass planted on the slopes. We're looking for this to kind of restore back up into woods, and that's kind of what's going on here. And that would be the same case in Plainville too. So you're going to get material growing behind the fence that will provide some level of natural screening, but it's not going to be a hedgerow of arborvitaes. Here's a good picture here. This is all regrowth that occurred after the trail construction. And these pictures were probably taken about 1 to 2 years after the trail was completed. So if you look on the left side here, you can see where some of these trees were removed, and it's already starting to grow back. A lot of this comes from a conservation seeding mix that we use to restore these type of wooded areas and bring them back into natural woods again. Thank you for the comment, and we do appreciate these concerns, and they're things that we'll discuss moving ahead.
Okay, Scott, from the chat, any new trail section is appreciated and will be used well.
Thank you for the positive support. We appreciate that.
Okay, Scott, we have another question along the lines of adjacent residences. How is the town planning on protecting the residences along the trail?
So we, as explained a few times tonight, we've got the 3-rail wood fence going in here. So that's certainly going to aid to keep trail users on the trail. And then in the sections where the canal is, which is most of the alignment, we've got water. So you have residential properties, but the canal is a pretty good barrier to keep people away from those properties. During the summer months, it's just not desirable for someone to go crossing that. But within the project, we have this 3-rail wood fence that's going to go in, and that is the safety measure. Anything beyond that, there's local police, but we really haven't had a history in Connecticut of crime associated with these trails.
Okay, Scott. So we still have quite a few comments to address. I think at this time, if we have any comments coming in, questions or comments coming in related to fencing, we can address those, individually. My email is william.hogan@ct.gov. Okay, Scott, this was a comment that came in earlier. Why is it necessary to use eminent domain for securing property? A landowner in Cheshire was required to sell property, and even though they granted access for the trail through their farm, it caused them to lose access to the opposite side of their property.
So we had covered this question earlier, and DOT does not need to use eminent domain. Our goal would be to work out a mutually agreeable acquisition price, and we'll try to achieve that. And if a few of these properties have an interest in maintaining land on the opposite side of the canal or the trail, that's something that we can discuss. So if you didn't provide your contact information with the comment, please reach out to us with that, and we can meet with you one-on-one and discuss your particular need. But we do not have a need to use eminent domain, and we'd like to come up with a mutually agreeable solution. And if you do wish to have access to the other side of your, the trail for your property, it's something we can discuss anyway.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, coming in from the chat. Who will be maintaining these fences?
The town of Plainville. So DOT will be providing the trail construction, and then after it's built, it's going to be both the land and the maintenance will be turned over to the town. So this is going to be the town's trail to own, to maintain, and to regulate as the town wants.
Thank you, Scott. Is it possible that this via chat? Is it possible that additional resources can be dedicated to the other 2 Plainville sections in order to get an earlier completion date?
So we have 2 designers working on Plainville at this concurrently, and it's a full-time effort. And phase 1 is at the 30% design stage. And I would say we're actually a little bit ahead of schedule on phase 2. And we're not presenting that here tonight, but to let you know, we did make quite a bit of progress in design on phase 2. We've got a lot of the survey work done up here, and we've done some work on phase 3. So we're not that far behind. And if you look at the construction schedule that we discussed, 2023 for starting phase 1, phase 2, 2024, that's a year behind. So once we start 1, they're going to follow in sequence pretty quickly. So I hope that helps out with your concern as far as us getting to it. Thank you for the comment, and thank you for the support. Bill, we lost you on mute again.
See if I can avoid doing that for the rest of the rest of the evening. Okay, from the chat box, I support and approve the design, and I will use the trail as soon as it is complete and open. I will be riding my bike from the north and using a parking lot in Farmington or Avon.
Thank you for your support. We appreciate that.
Okay, Scott, from the chat, is it 0.7 miles, 0.73 miles, or 0.75 miles for phase one? Scott, if you want me, so the phase one section is approximately 4,000 linear feet of trail, which comes out to approximately 0.75 miles.
We're about 3/4 of a mile, folks. Thank you.
Okay, Scott, in the chat, you do not have my support whatsoever.
Thank you for making that comment. You know, that's part of the purpose of tonight's meeting is for us to get feedback from everybody, positive and negative, and we do appreciate that. Thank you for the time for writing in.
Okay, Scott, we have another question related to comment coming from the chat related to privacy planting and fencing being included in the project. And this time we've addressed many questions related to fencing and plantings. If you would like, please reach out to me on an individual basis, and we can discuss. My email is william.hogan@ct.gov. Okay, Scott, coming from voicemail. This is actually a repeat. I support and approve this design and will use the trail as soon as it's complete and open. I will be riding my bike from the north and using the parking lot in Farmington and Avon, and from the south using the parking lot in Cheshire. Thank you.
We appreciate your feedback and support. Thank you very much.
Okay, Scott, we have from the chat, you have absolutely no thought to the people you will be impacting. Shame on you.
Well, you know, thank you for that comment too. As I mentioned, that's part of the reason for tonight's meeting is for us to get feedback from everybody, positive and negative. Thank you.
Okay, Scott, from the chat, I just wanted to say thank you for the work that has already gone into this and express the full support for the project. I live in Southington and go cycling often in both directions, south out of Southington or north out of Farmington. Having off-street access between the two main branches is important to me and my family. Considerations for phase one are consistent with the way that other recent successful trail development in Cheshire most recently has gone. I'm excited for this part to begin.
Thank you for that comment. We do appreciate it.
Okay, the chat. Once the project is completed and taken over by the town, I am guessing the town will be responsible for future maintenance and repairs of the trail. What has been your history and how much per year are these costs?
The bridges and the boardwalk are going to have at least a 75-year design life. We call them a boardwalk, but they're really going to be concrete. These are pretty durable. They're going to last a long time. Certainly don't expect much of a maintenance cost to go with that for a very, very long time. I'll show you another picture of the boardwalk here. So bottom right corner, you know, here shows the concrete deck. So that's going to be there for a very, very long time. You know, your maintenance costs are typically someone going out to do tree trimming and pruning as the vegetation starts to grow in on the sides. That's maybe from other towns I've worked with, maybe once or twice a year, they go out with a tractor and a pickup truck and a public works crew, usually do a little trimming. You know, paving, the asphalt that we put down probably is going to last 15 years at least. So, you know, the annual maintenance costs are not significant. It's usually limited to picking up trash if there is any, and typically there's not much. I mean, trail users are pretty conscious of that. It's usually just vegetation clearing that grows in, and that's only a couple times a year that needs to be trimmed. Thank you for the comment.
Okay, Scott. That bridge is directly at the edge of my backyard. I do not want to look at it daily, and that's why I asked if funds would be available to residents to put up fences to block this out. Not to mention the animals you will be displacing. The disruption that you caused testing soil was ridiculous, physically and the loud noises all day. We work from home and not just because of the shutdown, and now we'll be forced to deal with this during the completion.
So as we had mentioned earlier, you have very specific concerns to your residents, and we'd like to come out and meet with you one-on-one. So please provide us with your contact information, and we'll be out to talk in more detail about exactly how close the trail is to your property line and vegetation and restorative efforts that we can provide. And we'll work with you in a lot more detail and sensitivity than we can do in tonight's forum. But thank you for reaching out to us.
Okay, Scott from the chat, has the state fully obtained the Solely property as of today?
The state has not obtained any properties, and we do not before the public involvement process. So we have had discussions with the property owner about our intent for a parking lot, and we spoke with him about what his intent was for use of the land. And we had those talks about 2 years ago and have stayed in touch, but we have not made any acquisitions at this time. Thank you for the comment.
Okay. We have a couple comments coming in from the chat, thanking the design team for the hard work and for support of the project. Okay, Scott from the chat. Stop saying the distance between the houses and the towpath is a lot. I invite you to my house to view the actual distance. We want funding for fencing on our own properties to block out the view of the trail and people you are putting. To block out the view of the trail and people you are putting in our backyards and our privacy that you're disrupting. Sorry for butchering that. I apologize.
Thank you for the comment. It's come in a couple times tonight. We got it. We're hearing concern from the folks along Hollyberry, these houses, and how close the trail is to their backyard, and requests for privacy fencing. But thank you. That's part of the reason for tonight's meeting is to gather feedback.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, we have a comment came into the chat. As one of the many active users of the Heritage Trail, I want to thank the project members for their efforts to close the gap in such a wonder resource. Hopefully the issues of the limited number of detractors can be resolved in a timely fashion so that this unfortunate remaining gap can be finished. Keep up the good work.
Thank you for your support. We do appreciate it, and thank you for the time for writing in the comments. For tonight, everybody that took the time to write in a comment, I want to say thank you. We do really appreciate the feedback, and we will go through and review them all again after the meeting and evaluate all of them.
Okay, Scott. The path was not supported. 60% of previous respondents from Plainville who gave input were against this project. Please have the courtesy to tell the truth. Scott, I'd like to also note that we do have Mark Jewell on the call tonight, who was heavily involved in development of the gap closure study.
Yeah, Mark, you want to say a few words about the gap closure study, and maybe you can discuss the public involvement that went through during that time period briefly?
Sure. Can you hear me, Scott?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question. The gap closure study, which I encourage everyone to review if you haven't at gapclosurestudy.com, was a multi-year study funded by the Capital Region Council of Governments. And as most of you know, that's an organization that represents Plainville along with many other municipalities in the central Connecticut region. And they initiated that study to look at this and to get public input. And it was very extensive. A lot of the people on here tonight participated in that process. I recognize a lot of names here. It's good to see everyone on here commenting. But that project, that planning study, had very extensive public engagement. It was headed up by a steering committee made up of the town of New Britain, town of Plainville, town of Southington, the State Department of Environmental Protection, Energy and Protection, and DOT, and many others, advocacy groups. And I don't know the number off the top of my head, but there was dozens and dozens of stakeholder meetings, technical team meetings, public engagement. I think the final public meeting had a couple hundred attendees there, and the final outcome was a unanimously endorsed preferred alignment that you're seeing here tonight by the town council. And all of those public meetings are documented on the website I mentioned, gapclosurestudy.com. So if you want to see any of the meeting minutes from any of those meetings, presentations, recordings, they're all there at gapclosurestudy.com. And that'll give you a sense of the type of public input that was received during that multi-year process.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. And then Mark, if you can you just take a second to kind of introduce yourself to those who may not be.
Yes, sorry. Again, Mark Jewell. I'm with VHB. I'm one of the project team members who led the planning study on behalf of the Capital Region Council of Governments. We were the consulting engineering firm that was selected to conduct that planning study. And like I said, I'm here to answer any questions as well, if anybody has questions on that. But I know the main presentation tonight is to focus on phase 1.
And again, for everyone that might like to go back and look at that gap study closure document, the website is still active, gapclosurestudy.com. That's gapclosurestudy.com. And that has a lot of information about previous meetings that were held. It has a lot of information about alternate alignments that were reviewed, and basically all the background that gets us to where we are here tonight for why this trail is recommended in its location that it has.
Okay, thank you, Scott and Mark. Okay, Scott, from the email, on Saturday, I'm leading a ride from the New Haven Green to Southwick to demonstrate the benefit of the trail and the need to close the gap. Great work, Scott, and your team.
Thank you for the feedback. We do appreciate it, and wish you the best on your ride.
Okay, Scott, coming in from chat. Can you elaborate at all if phase 3 is going to be placed along Norton Trail or up Hemingway Street? Scott, I can.
Yeah, I'm not gonna take that tonight. You know, we're really focusing on phase 1, and I don't want to take any questions, you know, beyond what we already have on the additional phases.
Yeah, and I'll also note that phase 2 and 3 will have their own public information meetings in a later date. Okay, Scott, coming in from email. Can the paved surface be made to be pervious to minimize runoff? Isn't the lot property mostly open already?
That's something we can look at. You know, in other areas, we've done things where we've created rain gardens and had things in a, let's call it, environmentally sensitive manner in managing the stormwater. I do not have any intent for an enclosed stormwater system on this. So, you know, we will be implementing green technologies in the design in managing stormwater. We will consider a surface that would be pervious and let that go through, but there are other things we can do as well for groundwater recharge and minimizing erosion and you know, some of the bio gardens have worked pretty well too. And, you know, we're planning to put median islands in some locations in the parking lot, and there might be things we can do with those to grab some of the stormwater runoff, but we're not really planning an enclosed drainage system, and we will do the best we can to be environmentally sensitive about managing that stormwater. But, you know, I do appreciate the concern and the comment, and, you know, we'll try to incorporate that in the design as best we can.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, Scott from email. I live on a property at Condale Lane and I am against the culvert and water flow into the canal. You're mistaken that people will not step off the trail and enter private properties. I have photographed 4 different groups of people and witnessed a family of 4 who left the towpath, crossed the canal water, and entered my backyard to get closer to the spillway, which is perceived as a waterfall. After the 3rd group visited, a handmade and hand-painted sign was stolen. The sign had been there for over 20 years. I did inform the town. I was told to inform the police. I would like to know about the old growth tree destruction along Condale and Hollyberry. My property supports old growth tulip trees, which support egg laying by black swallowtail butterflies. I also had a sighting of a bald eagle and red-winged hawks. I made this presentation at a town meeting to no avail.
That's again something that's very property specific, and I'd like to meet with you individually to discuss those things. If you haven't provided your contact information in the chat or an email or a phone call to us, please do, and we can reach back out to you and discuss one-on-one. We can go out and meet on your property and discuss the limits of tree clearing. If you have certain trees that you're very concerned with, we could look at those. Predominantly in the section of the towpath, we're not going beyond the edge of the canal with any clearing, just the top of the towpath to construct the trail. So it would be really limited to trees just along the towpath. But I am interested in listening to you and seeing your concerns, and certainly willing to meet with you on site or virtually if we can, one-on-one. So please provide your information and we'll reach back out to you.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, coming in from the project email. I want convenient access to the trail. Putting the trail in my backyard is awesome.
Well, thank you for your feedback. We do appreciate that. And, I think for a lot of folks that are in the neighborhood areas around Hollyberry, Redstone, the driveway into this parking lot is a nice conduit right to the trail. For those that are interested, that will be a good feature for your neighborhood to be able to enjoy this resource when it's completed. But thank you for the comment.
Okay, Scott, coming in from the chat. How are you planning on crossing Town Line Road with the high traffic volume and the excessive speed on the road? Will you be putting traffic lights in or something else to slow the traffic down so people do not get hit crossing the road?
There will not be traffic lights. I do appreciate your comment tonight, and we'll take a look at more detail in the specifics here, but there's not at this time not proposing a traffic light. But thank you for the comment. I do appreciate that, and safety is something that we're very concerned about too.
Okay, Scott. Just like to note that we are growing closer to the 9 o'clock hour, so we will try to address all any remaining comments that we have leading up to that. And if there aren't too many, we can continue past 9. But in the event that there are any outstanding questions and comments, we can be reached out to on an individual basis. And also, I'd like to note that the project email and the voicemail will be open for comments through July 7th. Okay, Scott, coming in from the email. I am writing in strong support of the completion of the Plainville bike path, which will fill a gap in the Farmington Canal Trail and the East Coast Greenway. I am a bicycle commuter and a recreational rider who uses the Farmington Canal Trail as often as I can. The trail will be greatly improved by completing this section, and I urge you to do so with all prudent haste.
Thank you for your support of the need to close the gap. We do appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Again from the chat, Scott. I'm a Plainville resident and I completely support this project. Can't wait until it's completed.
Again, thank you for your comment, and for everyone that wrote in tonight, positive or negative, we do appreciate feedback, and that's the purpose for this type of meeting and venue. Thank you for taking the time to attend tonight's meeting and talk with us. Every comment has value, and we do appreciate it.
Okay, Scott. Coming in from the chat. Shame on the neighbors who are trying to obstruct a project that benefits tens of thousands of trail users and has significant economic development benefits for the entire state and region. The DOT has bent over backwards to try and accommodate neighbors' parking concerns and other requests from the town. It is truly sad to see the selfishness and solipsism, excuse me, I'm not sure how to pronounce that word, of a handful of adjoining property owners who are opposing an essential recreational asset that will have such an overall positive impact.
Again, thank you for all the comments. We do appreciate it, and we will evaluate all of them moving forward. Thank you very much.
Okay, Scott, again from the chat, we want to know who the stakeholders are that decided on this trail.
Well, it goes back to the planning study that we had talked about, and I would encourage you to go to this website. I'll enlarge the slide here, but gapclosurestudy.com, and that has all the history that you're looking for. And that's really the study that got us to alignment C, which is what we're looking at tonight, the design phase. Thank you for writing in. We do appreciate it, and I hope alerting you to this report and website, gapclosurestudy.com, will help answer some of your questions. What do you got, Bill? We got about 5 minutes left.
Yep. There's still a couple comments from questions and comments in the chat. So, Scott from the chat, if not addressing the Southington Trail project, it would be great to provide a raised crosswalk at Town Line Road. This would increase accessibility for trail users while also providing traffic calming for crossing vehicles.
Thank you for that. It's something that we certainly will look into and discuss with the town of Plainville. We've done that in other areas. It's been very successful, and I believe, it has helped a lot with safety. And thank you for being supportive of that. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, from the chat, why did you not go on the other side of the wetlands away from residences?
So again, how we got here tonight with the alignment, it's gapclosurestudy.com, and there's a lot of information in that report that led up to this particular alignment. So, and I don't want to go back and try to revisit all those meetings that were had prior to 2018, but the information is there if you want to go back and look at it. If you look at the plan that we have tonight, just briefly mention, look at all the wetland areas that are through here, the water courses, and we did our best to pick the most environmentally sensitive alignment that we could through here. The towpath is already disturbed. That was man-made and previously constructed, so using that doesn't disturb other native soils. There's not a lot of mature tree growth on it to be cleared. The trees are pretty small compared to the other wooded areas. So, we're on the alignment that was chosen for the gap closure study, and the reason is it's the most environmentally sensitive way to get through this area. Bill, next question.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, so we have 2 more remaining coming in from project email. I am writing to simply state my support as a citizen of CT and for this step toward filling the gap in Plainville. Like many others, I use the growing network of multi-use trails for cycling and also to explore various towns on foot with my family. Thanks to all those who have been working on and supporting the efforts to complete and connect the paths all over the state.
Thank you for writing in and support. We do appreciate it.
Okay, Scott, we have quite a long one here coming in from the email, so Please bear with me. Email from Plainville Senior Center. For more than 15 years, the Senior Center has had an active outdoor adventure program. Current participants range in age from 60 to 85. Among the many activities that our members enjoy include walking, hiking, and biking along the rails to trail system. We often travel to Farmington, Southington, Avon, and Simsbury to access the trail. We wholeheartedly support the connection of the trail from Town Line Road to Norton Park. Many of our members are biking enthusiasts and often cycle 25 to 35 miles round trip on the rail trail. I know these individuals would welcome the opportunity to ride from their homes to the trail and continue towards New Haven without having to load their bikes on their cars and drive to Southington. A lack of bike rack or other inability to lift their bikes onto their cars is a deterrent for some. Riding the city streets can be dangerous. The trails are much safer. Additionally, our group would benefit from cross-country skiing and snowshoeing on the trail if it were available. The wetlands will also provide a scenic opportunity for those who enjoy bird watching. Keeping older adults fit and active is a priority for our organization, and we foresee lots of wonderful possibilities if the proposal comes to fruition. Thank you for your consideration of this worthwhile project.
Thank you very much for that note and the support. We appreciate it. I think this section in particular will be really nice for folks that are walking. I think it's going to be very scenic. It's got a lot of different wildlife habitat within it, and we are proposing to put benches in certain areas along the trail so people can sit and observe wildlife or just sit and take a break and rest where needed. Thank you again for the comment and the support. We do appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Scott. So at this point, I'm not seeing any additional questions or comments come in. I'd like to reiterate that there are at this point, there will only be 2 additional methods for providing questions and comments to the project team. You can either email dotproject109-173@ct.gov, or you can call the voicemail line, which is 860-944-1111, and you can leave a voicemail. Please be sure to reference the project number if you do happen to leave a voicemail. And email comments and voicemail comments will be accepted until July 7th. Now, Ahmed, if you don't mind sharing your screen again and pulling up the survey. So this will be on the civil rights slide.
And, folks, while that's going on, I do want to reach out to all of you again, the folks that express concern that live directly within this trail section. Those of you that reached out and noted specific property concerns, please make sure we have your contact information. The design team is interested in reaching out to you, meeting with you at your property. We're more than happy to walk the trail alignment with you and discuss your specific concerns and see, what we can do to best mitigate them. And but we're definitely interested in working with you one-on-one. You guys are the most affected by this, and just please make sure we have your contact information so we can discuss your concerns directly with you.
Thank you, Scott. Okay, I'd like to also note again, please complete the survey. It can be found on the project webpage. Let me get you that webpage address. Okay, so the survey can be found at portal.ct.gov/DOT Plainville 109-173, and a link to the survey can be found at the bottom of the webpage. Again, I'd like to thank everybody for their time tonight. And if you would like, if you would like to reach out to the project team, please do not hesitate. Thank you.